Defending Israel with David Harris on JBS is made possible in part by a generous gift in memory of Eric and Mira J. Spector, the Paul and Lynn Late Family Foundation, To Life, to Love, Barbara and Bob Goodkind, the Patricia Worthen Ullman Foundation,
Hello JBS viewers, I'm David Harris, and this is Defending Israel. This week's guest is someone I'm actually meeting for the first time. He came very highly recommended by someone that many JBS viewers will know, Shachar Azani. Our guest's name is Rabbi Shlomo Goldfarb. He is both a rabbi in the north of Israel. He is also a major in the IDF. And in the last 2 years in particular, those two worlds have converged in a way that we're going to discover in the course of this conversation. Rabbi, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's really my pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Rabbi, for those JBS viewers who may not have met you before, as I have not met you before, maybe you could say a few words about your own background.
Yes, so shalom to everybody. My name is Shlomo Goldfarb, or by some I'm called Rabbi Goldfarb. I live with my wife and 5 kids for the past 21 years in a town up in the northwest of Israel in Western Galilee called Kfar Vradim. This town is only about 6 miles away from the Lebanese border. As I said, my wife, a beautiful 5 boys. I teach in college in a city called Tzfat, which is also up in the northern part of Israel. And I serve as the rabbi of town of Kfar Vradim and the community here. Besides that, when I was much younger, I served in the army. In the beginning, I was in certain different types of units. And then I went to officer school and specialized in chaplaincy. And in Israel, many people, even after finishing and completing 3 years, you end up being in the reserve. And I worked my way up in the reserve, in the reserved units in the army. And my last position, past 7 years, I'm a rabbi of a division. Now, the whole division is really a reserve division, which means one day they'll call us. And that's really what happened. On October 7th, they called us. And as you said before, David, it's not just juggling being a father, a husband, a rabbi, and a teacher in college. I had to put an extra factor in this juggling, and that is being full-time chaplain and conducting whatever we're doing for the past almost 2 years.
Rabbi, being a chaplain in the U.S. military does not necessarily mean carrying weapons or serving in combat. What exactly is the role of a chaplain in the IDF?
Very interesting what you're mentioning. In any other army, chaplains are not armed by definition. And the Israeli army, we go through training, we go through the beginning, the basic training, the basic officer training is regular officer combat, fighting, everything you have to know. And only later we specialize in chaplaincy. So most, or I would say all chaplains are really on the board, are active fighters, commanders, whatever the job is. And besides that, they have that extra job. So yes, we do carry weapons, and many of us are active combat soldiers.
So I want to come back to that in just a moment, but I'm guessing that for the JBS viewers, one question that pops up immediately is, are there chaplains in the IDF who are not Jewish, but perhaps serve the smaller Christian or Muslim populations? And do you work with them as well?
For sure, for sure. I mean, the majority of the army is Jewish, and therefore the majority of the ones giving them services are Jewish. But we do have chaplains. We have some chaplains that serve the Christian community. We have a few chaplains that serve the Druze community, and yeah, we work together, giving whoever needs whatever service is needed. We actually provide it.
So you said before the show began and we were chatting just a bit, you said that since October 7th, if I recall correctly, you have been serving in the IDF for some 600 days. So that's pretty much full-time since October the 7th. So
True.
Could you talk a little bit about those experiences to the extent you can share them? And then I want to come to the issue of the religious factor since October the 7th that you encountered with Jewish soldiers, and what kinds of issues have come up. Have secular Israelis become more religious? Have religious Israelis become more secular? What's the relationship between the IDF, the soldiers you deal with, and Judaism?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll start from the beginning, which is the role that we actually played throughout the whole time. I was actually drafted on the morning of October 7th. Showed up in the army base. Just to explain what reserve means. Reserve means that the person could wake up in his bedroom with his family in his regular house. He gets a phone call. He stops everything that he does, everything that he's supposed to do. If it's family, job, career, the work. He just stops everything, gets into usually his private car, and drives to the base. And we're not talking about not one and not two. We're talking about thousands and thousands. Just to give a perspective, based on the fact that our base is, as I was saying before, it's a reserve base. I think the night of October 6th, we have a doubt if there were 16 or 17 soldiers on base that night. Just guarding, doing whatever they have to do. 16 or 17 soldiers on October 8th. Okay, so the next day after October 7th, there were 22,000 soldiers posted on that base. Okay, that's what reserve means. It means you stop everything you do and you go and you play a very, very active role in being in the army. And 22,000 of these soldiers that showed up, in the end, besides everything else they need religious services. So they'll need synagogues, they'll need us to provide them with kosher food, they'll need us to take care of Shabbat, whatever that takes, including guiding them. What could they do on Shabbat? What can't they do on Shabbat? And that means you have to be connected both to the Jewish law part of life, but then also part of the understanding what the requirements are from the army. What's needed, what's less needed. As time started going, as time started passing, we realized that this is actually a community. So people had to have a bar mitzvah. Their kid has a bar mitzvah, so we brought the kid on base. We actually had about a dozen couples that got married on base because they planned a wedding. So they're not going to cancel the wedding. They just brought everybody to the base, and we had weddings on base with all their friends. Unfortunately, we had to deal with funerals. Then things started getting around. We had to organize Hanukkah and Purim and Passover, Seder, and we had to organize Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and put up sukkahs. I mean, we're talking about, not one day and not 2 days, and many, many thousand people that had these needs. And we really felt an amazing thirst. People just were thirsty to connect back to their roots and build these bridges. And that was our job. That's where we were standing. It's actually not just me, even though I'm the rabbi of the division, but I have together with me another 57 rabbis that were part of this operation that started in such a surprise. And with so much help and support and love, we're able to provide whatever we did, both on the circle of life and the circle of the whole year around. Now, regarding the second part of the question, is there really more of a will, of a thirst to connect to Jewish roots? Absolutely, yes. When such traumas happen, when such events occur upon us, it's so clear that whatever we do in the end, we're Jewish, and it's not just a geographical issue, and it's not a social issue. It's deep inside a religious issue, and people started really seeking and thinking to themselves, one second, what does this mean to me? What does this mean to me that I'm leaving my family and I'm leaving my job and I'm leaving my career and my dreams and my future and everything? What does that mean to me? What kind of country am I going to leave to my kids, to my grandkids? And people started getting questions and raising questions, which are like the hardcore, deepest, essential questions that really should come up. And we really felt that the level of questions and the depth that people really reached, and the binding, the connection that was caused between so many different types of, all of us are Jewish and all of us are Israeli in the army, at least the majority, but the connections became so big, the bridges were just unbelievable by all aspects.
Could you perhaps give us some examples of the big questions that were asked?
Like, why are we here? What does it really mean to be Jewish? What's the role that I have to really act? What's my job? What am I leaving, or what am I leaving to the next generations? Is there really a continuation of the Jewish people? It became very, very obvious, as I said before, that this whole conflict, it's not just a geographical conflict. It's not just a social thing. It's a real deep point of our essence of being Jewish. What does it mean to be Jewish? What does it mean to be a Zionist? Why are we insisting so much on this little piece of land of the Middle East called the Holy Land, Israel? And these questions really come up, and it causes, as I said before, very, very deep conversations, you have all these all-nighters that we sit in headquarters, and a lot of things come up. We felt this even like Friday night services. We in every base we put up a tent or some kind of a corner, a location that we try to have services on a daily basis, or at least Friday night and Saturday, and we really feel it. In other words, people really show up and people really ask the questions, and people really want the answers. I'll give you an example. I have one of the guys that sits with me in headquarters, one of the officers. He immigrated from Russia about 35 years ago, and great guy. But when I've ever discussed anything that has to do with Judaism or faith or God, he always said, "Rabbi, you live your life, I'll live my life, and let's just stay friends." And we stayed very good friends, even though we never discussed, or maybe just because we never discussed politics or religion. And one Sunday he comes back he went home for the weekend, and he says, "Rabbi, I want to share something with you." And I said, "What happened?" And he says, it's really bothering me for the past few weeks. Like, why am I here? Why am I raising my daughters? He has 3 daughters. What am I raising for? What am I raising them for? What's our mission? What are we here for? And it really, really bothered me. And he says, on Friday nights, right before I went home, I picked up from the tables. We printed every week. We printed a sheet that had, the Kiddush on it, and it had Shalom Aleichem. He says I took some leftover sheets that were there on the table, and I came back home, and I told my daughters, from now on, Friday night, we turn off our phones, we sit around the table, I'll raise the glass of wine, and I'll read the text just like the rabbi did in the army base. Because this has to do with something of connecting us back to the generations and giving us a future for us living on this land. And he told me this story. It's an amazing story. Since then, every time I meet him, he says, "Rabbi, I never forget about you." Friday night, me and my daughters, we sit around and we make the Kiddush.
It's a beautiful story, and I want to come back to the questions that you asked rhetorically just a moment ago, or repeating that soldiers asked you. We don't have an all-night opportunity on this JBS show, but you asked, what does it mean to be Jewish today? What does it mean to be a Zionist today? What is our connection to this tiny piece of land? Can you give us the short version of your longer answers to those who asked you?
So this is the story. Story is that I'll tell you, I really believe strongly we're not just here out of nowhere. We are very, very fortunate to be writing the next chapter in the history book of the Jewish people, and really of the whole entire world. I really, really believe that we have the great privilege of being just another part of this chain that started so back, that many, many generations were seeking for this time, were yearning for this time, were waiting for this time, and here we are, reestablishing home for the Jewish people and anybody that wants to join here in this land. And it's not just a technical thing, as I said before, it's not just a geographical thing, it's a real essential thing. And trying to establish this without our roots will just be very, very tough or impossible. And I think that once in a while, when we sort of forget about our roots, history just comes up and reminds us, hey, you're part of a very, very big thing, a big thing looking backwards in the past, and a very, very big thing of the present, of us establishing a better world here, and to the future, leaving this to our children and our grandchildren. And I think if you understand that you're not just randomly out of nowhere, you really are part of the story, and you have this privilege and this ability of becoming this very, very important chapter in this story, I think it really gives us a lot of motivation.
That's very helpful, Rabbi. I wish I could be part of the all-night session, but that'll be for another time. But to the young American Jew, for example, who says, come on, most importantly, I'm a member of the human race. Don't give me all of this particular stuff about being Jewish. I see myself in a bigger space than that. Don't confine me. What's your answer to that young American Jew?
That's such an amazing question, because I don't think what I said was a contradiction to being part of the human race. I think that everyone in the human race has a great mission and a job, and something that he is able to inspire the rest of the human race. And yes, and just like every single one around the world has a part in making this world a great, connected world, and a more godly world and a warm world. And everyone has their job, regardless to what's your religion and what's your race and your color, your size, your shape. Everybody has a job. So yes, us, the Jewish people, also have, and I really think that many people look up to us and expect us to be a certain type of an inspiration and a light. And you see that the expectations, just if you think about just human rights, right? They're always looking up to us and saying, oh, you're not, you are keeping human rights, you're not keeping human rights, when everybody else around, especially in the Middle East, are not necessarily the biggest ones keeping human rights, but they really have an expectation from us, everybody, to show a certain type of direction, to shine a certain type of light, and yes, and become an inspiration in very specific things. Everybody has a job in the world. We really believe that God created everybody, and everybody really has their job, and we have a very, very specific job in this specific place, in this specific planet, and yes, also in this very, very special land.
So, once again, the young American Jew, I can hear the voice somewhere out there saying, Rabbi, you spoke about human rights, but everything I see and read tells me that Israel is trampling on the rights of the Palestinians, that Israel is engaged in ethnic cleansing, if not genocide and apartheid in Gaza. You've served the last 600 days. You've seen it all. What do you tell those young American Jews?
I'm sorry, but I really deny what you're saying. I don't think, I know that there is a rule, and this rule is a very, very basic rule, that if someone is trying to, God forbid, kill you, you have to be the first one and stand up for your own rights. But at the same time, I do know how much we cared. I didn't serve in Gaza all these days. I served in the north. But I do know for a fact that every time we came into a village, and just let's try to remember, these villages were villages that were an immediate threat on the northern border, and my family specifically. I was 6 miles away from the border. We really do not understand till this day what stopped tens of thousands of Hezbollah members that were on the border, 6 miles away from my own family, what stopped them from crossing the fence and coming and doing the October 7th, but on the north. And then when we went and we didn't capture Lebanon just for the sake of capturing South Lebanon. We did it in order to protect our kids and to put a strip that will make my family and my surroundings have a much safe life. And before we went into every one of these villages, and I witnessed this myself, we sent flyers from airplanes telling them, go away, and if your house does not have any ammunition in it, nothing will happen to the house. Get away and come back when things calm down. We warn people. I've never heard about any type of army that warns the civilians before the civilians, and many of them, if they weren't actively against us, they were supporting them. And nevertheless, we gave every single one a chance to leave as we were cleaning up. And I want to tell you a story. When I walked into one of the villages, I could tell you the name of the village. This village is less than 10 miles away from my own house, called Aita Shayeb. I myself came in with my troops. We walked into the village. We walked into a beautiful, beautiful bedroom in one of the houses. We walked out. The houses were empty. I walked into this beautiful, gorgeous big house, and I walked into a bedroom that was painted all in pink with all these Disney World pictures on it. And it looked like a innocent bedroom of a cute little girl. And when we walked in there, we picked up the bed. There were RPG lined up one after another. And I'm not blaming the little
RPG
girl,
is
really
rocket propelled grenades, JBS viewers,
right.
for those of you who haven't served in the military.
Yeah. Rockets, grenades, brand new, under the beautiful pink
surrounded
bed of this
by
girl.
Disney World figures.
Right, with a beautiful pink, I remember the pink walls around me, yeah? And it's not the girl's fault, it really, really isn't. But there are people there that are using out civilians, and we, as the IDF, are trying our best. And I'm telling you for a fact, we even lost lives because of being so safe and so accurate and so careful that anybody that's innocent should not be hurt. But nevertheless, my children are also innocent. And nevertheless, my neighbors are innocent. And my neighbors and my children and my family have the full right of not living with a threat of tens of thousands of terrorists and of hundreds of thousands of rockets pointed at them and every single time. And if that's what it has to do, as it's brought down in our Torah, someone wants to kill you, God forbid, you have to be the first one. And that's really what we call that's really what we call the real morals. The morals of not letting somebody, God forbid, stepping over us or threatening us, but doing the best that we could and paying big price for it, and nevertheless making sure that whoever is a civilian and whoever was not involved should not be hurt, or at least minimize it.
Rabbi, thank you. I'm so happy JBS viewers got to hear that. I'm going to be very unfair to you. Unfair. We have just a few minutes left, and I've got to slip in two questions that I know are on my mind and viewers' minds. Question one, the issue of karedi service in the IDF, which has been so much in the news. Give us just give us a quick summary of where things stand and what your own point of view is.
Okay, so I'll share my own personal story. I studied in yeshiva till I was 24 years old. I came into an agreement with the army. The agreement was that I will study and I'll finish my degree. I'll finish my regular secular degree and my rabbinical degree. And afterwards, with the degree, I will come in and I will serve, and I'll be in use of the army much more when I'm 23, 24 with a degree than being an 18, 19-year-old soldier. That was my thing. Just like I have many friends that did that they did that with medicine, they did it with law, and that's what I did. I do believe that there is power and a strength that we all receive as Jews by people studying the Torah, by people being involved in Torah life. Nevertheless, it could be delayed for a year, 2, 3 years. I really strongly believe that whenever there is a need and whenever there's especially when there's a danger, and for sure now when we're so desperate, that our role model is King David. King David was someone that knew how to study the Torah very, very well, someone that was very involved in the Torah life. And nevertheless, he was also a great officer and a great commander. My role model are many of my friends. Unfortunately, I even lost a few friends, quite a few friends during this war, that in their free time were studying Torah day and night. They were sitting and studying in their free time, and nevertheless, when it came a time that their people were in danger, that their nation was in danger, that their beloved country was in danger, they knew how to stop everything and go and serve an army. So therefore, if somebody wants to delay his service a little bit, I think it's the right thing. But if someone wants to just decide that everybody else should serve instead of him, that is absolutely wrong.
That sounds fair enough. And I'm going to slip in one last question before, unfortunately, we have to conclude.
Yes.
As you and I meet, we have just had the news of a ceasefire that President Donald Trump announced between Iran and Israel. Apparently, there were a couple of violations of the ceasefire. The president showed some anger, actually, at both sides. But stepping back, from your perspective right now, from what you've seen from a distance in Gaza, from what you've seen close up in Lebanon, from what you've now seen with Iran, where are you on the optimistic, pessimistic political spectrum today about Israel's future?
I'm sure that we are giving over a much more secure and protected land and surroundings, much more than it was on October 6th. There's no question about it. There's Hezbollah is well threatened. Syria literally just doesn't really exist. Gaza still has to a little bit be dealt with, but I still think that they did quite a job in Gaza and Iran. I'm a rabbi and I'm a chaplain army, and I don't really know all the details of exactly, when exactly is the red line that you decide there is a ceasefire, there isn't a ceasefire. For sure, regarding the north, I'm very optimistic. Both Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, I still think the story is not complete for sure till we don't get our hostages back, until whoever is on the other side is totally threatened. Iran, I think we'll just have to wait and see. I do agree that we have to come to a ceasefire when we are more on the strong, powerful side. But where exactly is the line? Who's the one that makes the decision that it's enough, not enough? I apologize, not everything I know.
And we as Jews are mandated to believe in tikva, in hope, and not to succumb to despair. Correct, Rabbi?
100%.
So let's end on that hopeful note.
Yes, I really agree. And I think the greatest thing that we could ask for and wish for is real peace, real peace. First of all, peace within, among ourselves, among each other. And I think these 2 years did bring, as I said before, some kind of a connection, and much more of a connection and unity. And hopefully with that strength of peace between ourselves, we could really have peace with everybody around us.
As we say, Alavai, it should only be.
Amen.
Rabbi, thank you. And JBS viewers, you've just been treated to what I thought was a wonderful discussion with Rabbi Shlomo Goldfarb, who brings together all the best of Israel as a rabbi, as a soldier, as a father, as a teacher, in so many ways.
I'd like to just wish everybody and bless everybody from Zion, from not too far from Jerusalem. May you be blessed from Zion and see the good of Jerusalem all the days of your life.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. JBS viewers, this is David Harris defending Israel, and looking forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you, Rabbi Goldfarb.
Shalom. Bye-bye.
Shalom.